Yo, what's up guys, this is Mosen here with MTA 53 for the 25th of February 2019, bringing to you the daily dose of your WoW addiction and the content for it. And today we got Necrash here.
Hello.
Hello, first of all, hello. And Necrash is our Warlock class lead, and he's basically shit at everything but really good at Warlock. Right?
Indeed.
No. Yeah, so he's here with us today, and he will, since he knows what he's talking about, like, you know, a lot regarding warlocks and all that weird spell stuff and caster shit, right? So he's here to enlighten us a little bit in regards to how resistances work and how Spellhit works. So, yeah, you said you found something out. So,
Yes.
what is it exactly that you found out? And, yeah, go ahead.
So there's always been a lot of confusion about resistances and spell hit and so on in vanilla. Mostly because there's very few sources on how it actually worked. A few people are still confused back in vanilla. So what I found was a really complex guide and a thorough investigation of how it actually works, which is slightly different to what most people seem to believe. And so if we sort of break it down into two parts, because there's spell hit and there's resistance. If you are a caster, you might have noticed that if you cast a Shadow Bolt or Frostbolt or whatever, it will sometimes say resist. It will never say miss, because miss is not a thing that appears in combat log or anything, but it's still a thing. And basically, if you are on the same level as a target you're trying to cast a spell on, you will have a 3% chance of resisting, or missing actually. And what that will do is just the entire spell will be negated. And
Hold
that
on, so you're saying spells can miss?
spells can miss, but they won't say that they miss,
Okay.
which is really strange. And there's always 1% chance of missing. You can't get rid of that, even on a low target.
Okay, I thought the 1% is a 1% resist chance you can't get rid of. That's actually a miss chance.
It is a miss chance, yeah, but it says resist because the game is old and stupid.
Okay, old and stupid as me. Well, okay, so that's news. So you said there's a 3% miss chance, or what? Did I get that correctly?
The cap is 3%, yeah. But you have a 4% miss chance against the same target, but because of that 1% that can't be avoided, your cap in PvP, well, at least the same level PvP, is 3%.
Okay, but we're usually talking about raid bosses. So,
Yes.
raid bosses are level 63, count as 63, right? 3
Yes.
levels above a player. And so what's the difference between, first of all, hit? I mean, you know, hitting, yeah, spell hit, or is that the spell hit goes against the miss only? Oh, and what's the resist? So, because sometimes you can, because I'm a scrub, right? It's really good. If you can explain this to me now, yeah, and I know it after this, then it worked. So,
yeah, essentially your spell hits, the spell hit you get from gear, will increase the chance to hit a target, but it will you will decrease the chance of resisting a target based on your hit. And in a boss target, you have a 17% chance of missing. And discarding the 1% that you can't get rid of, that means you have a 16% cap on spell
because
hit.
1 you can't get rid of.
Yes, so 16%
yes, 17, but 16. Because 1% you can't get rid of, so 16% you need to figure out how to get hit gear.
Yeah, for Warlocks that's an issue, because we don't get anything from
like the Moonkin.
talents or anything. But there's another thing.
But
If
hold
you are
on.
a
But
warlock-
warlocks. Let's say some classes have talents that say reduces
Yeah,
the
that's
chance.
what I wanted to talk about. Yeah.
Okay.
So if you're a warlock and you have affliction in your talents, you have a talent called suppression, and it says reduces the chance for enemies to resist your affliction spells by 2% per rank.
And I thought
Now
that's 2% hit.
Yes, that is 2% hit. It has nothing to do with resistance at all. It is only 2% hit, but it's just really badly worded. I know Shadow Priest have a similar talent, and I think mages do as well.
Yeah.
So that's just even more confusing. But that's essentially hits. Once you sort of get hit capped, or as a warlock, that's almost impossible to do, but you get a lot of hits. So when you cast a spell, the first thing it does, it rolls on the hit table. And if the spell is a hit, it then rolls on the resistance table. And resistance is governed by...
Hold on, again. You first roll, when you cast a spell, what do you roll for? What does the game roll first?
It rolls for hit first.
For hit.
So see if you hit the spell at all. And then it rolls on the resistance one.
Okay.
And here there are two different types of spells. There are the binary spells. So these are spells that can either apply their full effect or nothing at all. So for instance, a corruption. You can either apply the corruption, and it will take, or it's resisted, does nothing. And then you have non-binary spells, like Shadow Bolt, which will do damage, straight only damage. And for non-binary spells, you can actually have partial resists. So the spell can do 0 damage, 25, 50, 75, or 100%.
I know that because that's the shit that I was always getting triggered by when I played Red. And it's like, fat Seal of Command proc. Too bad 50% of it got resisted, although there shouldn't be any holy resistances. I'm gonna judge this Judgment of Command now. And nothing happens. Not even the resist showed up.
But that's what I found out now. That the resistance on the target is not the only resistance it has. It also has an innate level-based resistance. And this level-based resistance is depending on the difference in the level between you. So like almost everything else in the game, you take the level of the target times 5, and that is its innate resistance.
So 315 for a raid boss.
315
like on
for a raid boss.
Weapon skill and defense rating.
Exactly.
315.
And skinning as well, I believe.
Okay, yeah, and you have 300 as a player. So the difference is 15.
Exactly,
what does it mean?
No, that's not how it works. Basically, like if you have, if the boss has 315, you need 300 resistance plus 15 to cap it out. So you need 315 resistance to cap out a spell that a boss shoots on you. And if you have, if you have something like the Holy One, for instance, because bosses have no holy resistance. But they do have the 315 innate. But you have 300, like the level difference is only 15. So it acts as if it has 15 resistance to everything. And that's why you get partial resist on Holy.
Crazy. But sometimes it was up to 50% resisted.
Yeah, so basically there's quite a complex math involved when distributing these partial resists. And basically, like, the more resistance you have, the more you your damage is reduced on average. And it's about 2.5% per 10 resistance, but it's a little less against higher targets. So level 63 targets is a little bit less.
Yeah, but the thing is, okay, so that this isn't really correct, we know that, but with the holy stuff. But like now we're talking about Okay, so you have the talents that say increases your chance that or reduces the chance that the target resists your stuff by 10%, like for example in the Shadow Priest tree or etc. in the Warlock tree or Mage tree. That's hit, right?
That is essentially hit, yeah.
Yeah, so if a Shadow Priest can spec that in the Shadow tree, I think it's I don't know what it's called. If that is in there and you can spec into 10% right there, that means you've got a 10% increased hit chance, which then leaves you at 6% you need to gather from gear.
Yeah.
Okay, so that gets rolled first if you attack a 63 raid boss, and then
Yes.
what is it then? So then the raid boss has how much baseline resistance? 15.
Yeah.
Plus what?
Plus the resistance that the target has,
And that's
that varies.
individual. Yeah.
Yes,
Okay.
but usually it's about 75 or 100. Most
Okay.
bosses have that. So if you throw a Curse of Shadows on them, usually it shouldn't have any resistance. Like AQ and onwards, it shouldn't have any resistance at all, except for I think Kel'Thuzad has 100 shadow resistance. I'm fairly sure he has. So at that point, like you can actually use. Yes, the curse removes some resistance, but you can actually use spell penetration gear on Kel'Thuzad.
Yeah, but hold on. Like, so you said most bosses have 75 resistances.
Yes, which is completely removed by
but
Curse of
completely.
Shadows.
So the Curse of Shadows, Curse of Elements removes that completely.
Yes,
Okay.
but the
Okay,
innate
that's why it's so strong.
resistance.
Yeah,
yes,
and-
the innate resistance doesn't get removed by anything.
Okay, so it keeps the 15 on top because
Yes.
that's just level and it's there. So what you're
Yes.
always dealing with is 15 resistance and 1% mischance on a spell.
Exactly.
Which means, and the important thing to remember is, on a spell, if it says resist, you missed it.
Could be either way. Could be either way. You
or
don't
the other
know.
way around, however you want to call it, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So then, what does spell penetration do?
So spell penetration just reduces the resistance that a target has, but not the level-based resistance. So if a target has 100 resistance and you have 20 spell penetration, it acts like it has 80. But if it's a boss level, then it has plus 15, so it has 95 resistance.
But it has, if you have 5 spell penetration, then the mob has 100 resistances. And you have 5 spell pen.
Yeah.
Then it goes down to 95.
Yeah.
Very straightforward. 20 spell penetration is minus 20 resistance on the target.
Yeah.
Okay, but what you're saying, usually mobs or raid bosses have 75 resistances, plus the 15, which you can't get rid of anyway. And you can't get rid of them, those extra 15 with spell penetration either, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so if the Curse of Shadows, etc., removes the 75 resistance they have completely, then what is spell penetration for if it's at 0?
Yeah, that's the thing. It's almost completely useless in raiding. Which is really annoying because there's a lot of spell penetration gear on like tier 2.5 and so on.
Okay, but wouldn't that make a spell penetration really good for anything that there's no curse for?
Yes, so for instance, elemental shamans who use nature damage, they use a lot of spell penetration gear because there's no curse to reduce that. It's only the Thunder Fury, I believe, which reduces by 15 or something.
Turn on the light here real quick. I'm so dark in the face, man. Alright.
But for holy, there is no holy resistance. It's only the innate resistance.
So you're saying there's no 75 resistance on every raid boss?
Not for holy, no.
Okay. So I was thinking, since there's no curse for holy, obviously, that would have made spell penetration for red's pretty good because you would reduce it. But you think? Are you sure? Because when I was judging Seal of Command, for example, Judgment of Command, they had really like 50% partial resists.
Yeah, but that's kind of normal, because once you just have any sort of resistance, there is a decent chance of partial resists. There's like
even 50%.
Very low chance of
Okay.
Probably could be if you have bad procs. I think if you have.
Because what I'm thinking is that maybe those raid bosses do have 75 holy resist on top of that normal internal.
They shouldn't have on this server, because like even in the game files you can download and you can check, and there is like a column for all the resistances, and I think it's the resistance 1, which is holy, and it's just zeroed all the way through except for I think one mob, which is the Zolgora sort of overlord mob that controls the hoodoo piles, which doesn't exist in the game.
Okay.
And that's the only one.
Okay, so then spell penetration is good for, you said, elemental shamans, because they do nature damage, which there's no curse for, or any reduced resistance thing. So
and for some select bosses, I think the Ebon Rock in Blackmoor Lair, and maybe also some of the other dragons. Lucifron, I know, has a lot of shadow resistance, like 200 or so, and all the emerald dragons, like the world dragons, they have 200 in every resistance except holy. So for some places it is useful, and also PvP, obviously.
Okay. Well, what I'm thinking then is, so spell penetration is good for elemental shamans because it's nature, and what about? Shouldn't it then also be really good for Moonkins? Or because they use Starfire, right? Starfire is arcane. Main damage source of a Moonkin is arcane damage.
I think Curse of Shadows removes arcane.
Arcane as well?
Fairly sure, yeah. Shadow and arcane, and then elements does fire and frost. I'm not completely sure though.
Curse of Shadow. Alright, so reducing shadow and arcane resistances. Okay, true. So no. Also shit for Moonkins. There we go. Yep. What else would we have? Fire, we got all schools reduced except for holy and nature, basically.
Yeah, basically, yeah.
So good for elemental shaman. So you want to have then what, 75 spell penetration as an elemental shaman? You have
if
like
you
your
can get it, yeah. It's a pretty big DPS boost, because it's around 2.5% DPS per 10 spell penetration.
How much DPS?
Which is about 2.5% per 10 spell penetration, so it's pretty good.
Holy shit. Yeah, so the tip right here, if you're elemental shaman, you want to stack the spell pen. Otherwise, pretty much useless unless you're doing PvP.
And for some bosses like Lucifron, Kel'Thuzad, Ebon Rock.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, special.
And also, like some items, like the tier 2.5 shoulders for Warlocks, which is best in slot right now, they have 10 spell penetration anyways. And also, if you want to go for the full tier 2.5 set, like some Warlocks do, I think the chest piece has like 20 spell penetration, or the pants. So you get some spell penetration in there anyways.
Okay.
Also,
So,
there is one last thing about spell penetration, which is kind of neat. Before you actually throw your Curse of Shadows up, the target does have 75 resistance, so you do have a decent chance of it resisting. With spell penetration,
resisting the curse, you mean?
Yes, and this is very important. For instance, with some mobs that just has to be banished.
Yes.
Maybe, are there any? Yeah, like the demons. If you're still struggling with the demons in Blackmoor Lair, there are some on the Felguards. If you start resisting those banishes all the time, it can end really badly. So spell penetration could have some use there.
True. Okay, so let's summarize. I'll sum this up. The things you get, well, first of all, you have 17% mischance on spells, which the game counts as resist. You see them as resist. You see Frostbolt resisted, that means you miss the spell technically. So
Yeah.
you can get that from talents, and those talents say reduces the chance that the target will resist your spell. Those are basically the hit talents for casters. And then you have 1% of that, so 17 in total, that you have a miss chance on spells. But you can only get rid of 16%, and 1% always stays. 1% to miss. And then you have the resistances on bosses, which, for example, are 75 on raid bosses, which you can reduce with Curse of Shadows, Curse of Elements, etc. Unless you're a shaman, because there's no curse for nature. And as a shaman, you want to stack spell penetration, 75 of it, to get to 0 resistances at raid bosses. And then furthermore, every raid boss, since he's 3 level above, anything that's above you has 5 resistance per level on top.
Which can't be removed.
Which can't be removed. But if they cast a spell, you can try and resist it. Okay. So, yeah, that makes sense. And that's also why it's 315 for Ragnaros if you're stacking Fire Res and you want to completely resist the... You can't completely resist it, but if you want to 99% resist his AoE fire knockback, you don't need 300 fire resistance, but you need 315, because he's a raid boss and 3 levels above you.
Yeah.
That makes all sense, right? Okay. Makes sense. So you'll always have partial resists, basically. There's not much you can do against that, correct?
Yep.
Which sucks.
Yep, it really does.
Really does. And if you're a Moonkin, your biggest struggle is basically the spell hit, correct? So,
just like Warlocks, you get nothing from talents.
Yeah, so basically, what... Coffee deep. Okay, so my coffee was being stolen here. That's live. So... Yeah, okay. That makes sense. So the Moonkins have 0 talents of getting spell hit or any chance to help reduce anything. So basically as a Moonkin you want to stack hit. And as an elemental shaman, do they have anything? Do you remember? Let me check.
I don't think so, no.
I think they do, yeah. Let me double check though. Mana cost, damage. Man, that's like really sucks for them.
Yeah.
That's also, and it's pretty much the reason why they only get kind of viable once Blackwing Lair is out for a little while, right?
Yeah, they really need all the hit gear, and they also need there's a PvP ring, I think, which has 20 spell pen on it.
Yeah, well, I think it's the AV one actually.
Yeah,
I think it's the PvP one, the Don Rodrigo's.
Yeah, it might be that one. And there's also a trinket that you get from AB or something. You need Honored or something like that,
right.
Which also has spell penetration.
Right. Okay, so yeah, sucks for you, Moonkins and Elemental Shaman. I still think it's cool specs. So, but now you know. Okay, if you have the Moonkin Dream, or the Elemental Dream, you want to live it. You need to stack that spell hit in any case, and you need 16 of it, which is exactly the problem. But if you want to pull it off, that's your first step to start. Okay.
And another thing about as well for elemental shamans is that the Curse of Shadows elements, they increase the damage of your spells as well. 15%, I think.
Again, sorry.
The Curse of Elements and Curse of Shadows, they increase the damage of your spells by, I think it's 15%.
Oh yeah, true.
And so you're missing that as well. Not only the resistance, but also the damage buff. So they are really
But
shafted.
You got Thunder Fury.
Thunder Fury, yeah. What is it, 15? Nature
Thunder
resistance,
Fury
I think.
debuff. It boosts the nature damage. So I'm gonna type in Thunder Fury. Each jump reduces the victim's nature resistance by 25, first of all. So that's a curse.
Yeah.
So you get 25% off. They have 50 on the boss left if you have a Thunder Fury tank. Which you need. So you need 50 spell penetration if you have a Thunder Fury tank, and 75 if you don't. And but it doesn't say anything about increases nature damage taken. No.
No, you'll miss that.
Yeah. Each jump reduces that victim's nature resistance. This is like the last of the effects up to 5 targets. I never checked that out because as Alliance it wasn't really a thing. Does that mean like the last target has minus 125, or does that mean the first target, if it hits 5 targets, has minus 25? Damage. Enemy, blast your enemy, 300 nature damage, and then jumping to additional nearby targets. Each jump reduces that victim's nature resistance by 25. Affects 5 targets.
Yeah, so I think it's just 5 targets that get their nature resistance decreased, and then you get another debuff, which is the attack speed one. That's why Thunder Fury consumes 2 debuffs.
Yeah.
Much to the chagrin of every warlock who wants corruption stuff.
True. Okay. Okay, cool. Then we have solved this mystery. And there you go. So there's spell hit and spell pen, which reduces the resistance of the target, and spell hit reduces the chance that you miss it, just like melee. But there's always 1% you can't get rid of, so take that into consideration. So PvP hit cap, what would that be for a caster?
3%.
3%, why?
It's 4% against the same target, and the 1% you can't get rid of.
Yeah, so 4 technically, but 3 is all you can get rid of. And why is it that raid bosses are so much higher then? When against the level 60, it's 4. And it's a raid boss.
It sort of increases, not really exponentially, but almost. I think it's one level above, it's 96% chance of hitting, and 2 is 95, and then 3 is 84, and 4 levels above is 73. So it goes down really quickly. This is why if you're like a level 40 warlock or something and a level 50 tries to gank you, you just can't hit him with anything.
Yeah, true, actually. Yeah,
which is really fucking annoying.
That's true. Yeah, I remember, like, as a melee you sometimes have a chance to do something, but
yeah, I've tried, like, you know, on my 60 wall, I'm trying to gank level 30 rogue or whatever, and it just gouges me. Like, what the fuck?
True. Okay. Good thing we solved this mystery, this ancient mystery. Maybe, I don't, it's probably not a mystery to some people that have been extensively raiding, but I, for example, didn't know because I'd never really played caster at all. Like, ever. Unless, I played it in, I think I played Priest competitively in Arena, and there you needed to know your hit cap, but that was pretty much straightforward, more straightforward, I felt like.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I have a last thing to say about spell resistance. If you've seen Preach's, Mike Preach WoW's video on the Legacy of the Warlock, during the vanilla phase there, he talks about negative resistances.
Yeah, and, is that a thing? Is that even true?
Yes, it was true during vanilla. Not true anymore. They have changed resistances so many times during vanilla. But essentially, like we talked about, you getting partial resists, it worked the other way around as well. So if your target had minus resistance, you could get 25, boosts. 50... Yeah, 25, 50, 75, or 100% extra damage, which means you could crit and then get 100% extra damage. So you could just, you know, one-shot people.
Imagine the red dream with that. So basically, basically the negative resistances were a thing before a certain patch in vanilla, or.
Yes, I believe it is between either between launch and up to 1.6 or 1.4 to 1.6. Sources disagree, but around there.
Yeah, that's the thing. It's always hard to see. Okay, so any more tips that you can give casters, what they should aim for first, or anything you want to say as a final note?
About the tanking for warlocks, like the twins tanking,
we'll
want
do that
shadow
in the
resistance.
next one, then. We'll do that in the next one.
That's fine.
Gotta stretch the content out a little bit, you know?
Yes.
Don't give them all at the once, okay? Alright. So what do warlocks do to get the hit? What do casters do in general? What's your tip?
Well, there's a lot of items which is hit on them, but you need to find them. Obviously, some items are really good, like Nethorian's Tear is fucking amazing. Yeah, Bloodwine. Like, all the warlocks now, they should just wear Bloodwine almost all the way to Nax. If you're Taylor, that's really good. Then it's pretty much Biz until several pieces of Tier 3.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Alright. I mean, so if you're Moonkin, right, you should be Taylor and have the full Bloodwine set, even better with the 2% extra crit.
Yeah, the crit is really good for Moonkin as well, because it reduces their cast time when they crit.
Yep. Okay. I think that sums it up for this MTA. We're gonna recruit. Man. We're gonna record the next one already. And that is gonna be about the Warlock tank. And gold tips. Maybe the gold tips video is already out, I don't know. We'll see, because we're pre-recording this right now. But for now, I'd say thanks, Necrash, for the tips and the insight into the spell hit, resistance, and all that crap.
Sure.
Which nobody really knows the thing about if you're not really playing caster for years. And I'd say thanks very much for watching, everybody. If you enjoyed it, leave feedback on the video. And for now, I'd say I will see you next time.